Vasso from Anna Unbound, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
No, congratulations with the film. I've seen it, really liked it. I know you were involved in the film, but how were you approached for the role? How did it all sort of come about for you?
Well, it's quite a long story attached to it. So the film was developed through a short film that we did as an experiment to try out the horror genre in order to be able to do another short film at the 24-hour film festival in Glasgow. That was about maybe 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
So Bernd, the director, kind of worked on this short story which involved a woman being tied up on a bed, waking up from hallucinations or something that you don't really know what it is. So that was like a little kind of test on the genre for us to see what it feels like, what we can do. And then when that was finished, we sort of decided to develop it into feature film. So firstly, I think there was some sort of award up for best script from one of the local kind of film companies, and we thought, okay, let's try and do that and see if we can get funding. Didn't get the funding, but by that time there was already sort of treatment or first draft of the script.
Oh right, so they actually offered a bond for a
so that kind of gave the initiative to the director, just to go with it, and thought, okay, why not? Let's just take this and run with it and see what we can do.
Right.
And eventually the feature film was created a few years down the line. I think altogether it took about maybe 2 years or so. The director's over there. So is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. It's quite a nice story. I personally like it because you get one first idea which just sparks your imagination, and you think, oh, how far can I actually go with this? And then it expands and you meet the right people, and then, you know.
Was it tough to shoot? Was it difficult? Or did you make it easy?
For me, it wasn't tough as such. I think the toughest thing are long hours and being able to work with the human condition, with people getting upset, people being whatever, tired, hungry, and still being able to be as professional as you can, and knowing that you have a tight schedule, a long schedule, and you need to treat it with a kind of fresh attitude every single time that you do a shot. Yeah,
I mean, the thing is, where filmmaking, everything associated with filmmaking, which obviously most people won't know because they just see the finished product. Whatever film you work on tend to be very long hours. I mean, whatever filmmaker I talk to, and they all seem to say, if you had one more thing, it would be more time. You know, and I guess that's exactly the same on this film.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I don't know what the differences are depending your kind of budget or your conveniences. We sort of had to do everything ourselves. And that adds to the pressure a little bit because you are multitasking, whether you are an actor or involved in the kind of shooting crew. There are a lot of things that you need to take into account that add, I suppose, to the long working hours and the stress and the effort that you need to put into something. But they are long days, but also very creative and extremely educational. Also, yes.
I mean, how do you prepare for a role? How is it done? I mean, is it something you think about all the time, or you just put it in a box, wake up in the morning, get ready to shoot, and you're away, or is it not quite that? Because I don't have a clue. I really don't.
I don't know. Well, because I come from a theatrical kind of training, and I have that awareness as well, so I'm trying to use the same preparation that I would do to work on a stage production, which means that I would always take into account the audience being present at any given point.
Right.
I personally prepared by having a space for about a month and going to that space every single day and just in my mind recreating the entire film.
Well, every day you'll...
I am a bit of a mentalist that way. I tried to go as deep as I could into my kind of imaginary landscape, and obviously that's very different from the reality of the film, but I thought that would perhaps help me to find the character a little bit better. So I did actually have a physical training every single day for a few weeks prior to the film, and then obviously taking little elements and ideas for the person that you are becoming gradually from various sources.
I mean, does it affect? It doesn't necessarily. This question doesn't necessarily relate to this role, but I suppose generically, do you find when you get into a character so much that it can affect you? I mean, I have heard stories where people take the character home, but maybe it depends how deep and disturbing the character. But you know what I'm getting at here. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, you know, comedic role, I don't know. But, you know, how do you avoid falling into that trap is the question I guess I'm trying to ask.
Can I answer this in a twofold way?
Yes, of course you can, yeah.
So firstly, I know exactly what you're talking about, but I also think because this wasn't such a long kind of shooting period, for me at least, and the role wasn't so much detached from myself as a person, it didn't affect me dramatically in such a way that you're mentioning. I think had it been a more kind of maybe darker character or even more complex, that would perhaps have an effect depending on my commitment to it as well. But I would say that maybe the odd effect came afterwards, after the film was completed, because in some very peculiar cosmic way, I ended up more or less living the character's situation in real life.
What, just as a coincidence?
As a coincidence, which was quite freaky, because I thought afterwards, is this some strange kind of psychological byproduct of working on a character?
Karma.
Because I did physically move out from the place where I lived and then moved back with nothing but a suitcase, very much like the character.
Yeah, I know what that's like. That's happened to me, yeah.
Yes. So that was a little bit unusual, and I thought, I am actually living my character, so I kind of did like a debrief.
And was that not unplanned?
No, that wasn't planned at all. As soon as the film finished,
right.
I just like moved away from the city I was living in, and then went back to my hometown in Athens, and then I thought, I just need, things happen in my personal life, and I went back with just a suitcase, and I literally went on my laptop, like very much in the script, looking for a hotel and trying to start anew. So a lot of things happen in the filming process that maybe audiences are not aware of when they see the film. So
when I asked you about living the character, you kind of were, really?
I did afterwards, for sure. I lived my character 24/7.
I know earlier you mentioned that did you say your family quite theatrical or your upbringing was?
My training as an actor, because obviously you do, your main preparation is to do theatre work and a lot of plays and very different types of plays. So it is quite a different environment, obviously, to the filming one. I
mean, how does it? I know it seems a bit of an obvious question, but how does it differ for you personally? I mean, I can see it with my own eyes, obviously, when I see a theatre production or see a film, but I don't live an actor's life, so I don't know how you would, flip between the two, and how much difference you have to invest in yourself to get the performance out when you're on camera, as opposed to in the theatre. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense. I think in terms of the final product, or when you're actually performing it, because it's maybe the preparation can be quite different. The final product, obviously, it's a much more kind of personal space working in a film environment, because your audience is not there, so you kind of feel protected in that way.
Yeah, and I suppose you've got the luxury of knowing
you
if it goes wrong, you can do another take,
yes,
I guess.
Of course. And you do have the luxury of disregarding maybe one moment that didn't quite work out, which you don't really have in a theatre. It's a different kind of responsibility. So taking that kind of theatrical weight of knowing that every single moment is actually quite precious in terms of the way you work with everybody around you, that kind of shifts the balance a little bit. But this is like a really long-winded conversation to have.
No, it's not. I think, no, I mean, I always say that, honestly, any answers that we get are always fascinating, because it doesn't matter what the film, it does matter in terms of course matters, but it doesn't matter who I'm interviewing, they always have a unique story.
Yeah, something that I would perhaps like to say, which I think is very valuable, is that you learn a lot, if you're willing to, a lot about respecting the people that you work with, if you have endured long hours as a kind of theatrical performer, because they are long, your rehearsals, your performing days, and you may have more than one in one day. So learning how to become a better professional and a better artist through that is extremely important. So I think if you transfer that to the filming environment, then you are much more able to communicate with everybody around you, with the crew, with your other actors. Because I think that if you've only done perhaps film, or if you're only secluded in that background, there's a lot of scope for you to not be aware of all the dynamics that are happening and all the multiple layers of communication that you need to have in order for a production to run smoothly from the beginning until the end.
And which do you prefer?
I prefer to be able to work with everybody to the best of my abilities.
So
yes, I like to have my personal space, but...
I mean, sorry, which do you prefer, the theatre or...
I'm a film buff.
Really?
I'm a big film buff, so I'm very happy to be on set all the time, and that is my personal preference, because for some reason I find that it suits me a little bit better. And not to say that I don't like theatre.
No.
It's a different type of work altogether. But I, as a person, based on my personality, I feel much more comfortable and at ease in a filming environment. I think maybe because initially I wanted to be a film director as well. So I've always have that at the back of my mind. Oh, maybe one day I might.
Well, see, again, it's very. Those 2 points you picked up, they're very interesting. One is I spoke to a girl yesterday who's directed her first film, and she said it's she's found it very difficult to be a director as a woman because it's very male dominated. I mean, this is her saying that, not me, because I don't know. And secondly, that when I ask people, most actors, that question about the theatre or cinema or theatre or film, actually most of them say theatre. So it's interesting to hear something a little bit different, you know. And I guess, you know, you've obviously explained the reasons that you enjoy it more. And what's next after this? Have you got? I mean, I'm sure you've got done loads of work since. What are you doing right now?
I'm involved in some short film productions, but I have also this is funny actually to mention, but I have also recently started my my friends another 2 friends and myself started a theatre company. So that's
right in Greece.
No, in Scotland. Right, so that's kind of sort of negating what I said. I suppose I'm trying to do a bit of both, a bit of everything.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work that's happening over there. We finished our first play. We might have that play performed as a radio play, fingers crossed. See what happens with that. So a bit of work regarding that, and got some community work lined up in Scotland at the moment with that company.
So diversification, I guess, is...
but also because I personally come from an applied arts background, painting, did a lot of photography when I was younger, so I'd like to utilise that as well in my spare time. So if I'm not filming, then I'd like to do as much of the other arts stuff that I'm interested in.
Right, okay, wonderful. I am going to ask you one question which I never get a straight answer, but I love asking. Do you have a favourite film?
Oh.
Shall I tell you what most people say? They can't give me an answer. That's why I like asking the question.
Oh, yes, I do have one, but I'd also like to put it together with my favourite film director because they're quite different.
What about you tell me the director and I'll see if I can guess the film?
No, they're 2 different ones.
So right, okay.
Yeah, but may I say them together?
Yeah,
Would that be okay? So my favourite film is Dirty Dancing.
Right, okay.
For my personal reasons.
Nothing wrong with Dirty Dancing.
Straightforward,
great film,
great soundtrack, nice simple story. But yeah, for some reason I could watch that film over and over again. But my favourite film director is Bergman, and he is the reason why I was inspired to... So
you haven't got a favourite like Seven Sins or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah, obviously Seven Sins or The Hour of the Wolf. I like his style in general, his entire filmography. I like quite kind of brainy cinema when it comes to
stuff,
shooting that. But yeah,
That's why I love asking that question. Honestly, you've done very well.
Oh, thank you so
very much.
So, it's Athens you're from then?
Yep.
I think you'll do nicely.
Thank you.
Is there anything I can do for you?
No, thanks, Roberto.
It's just Robert.
No. I'm fine.
Just give me a second.
No, I said no!
The others, they've not liked you. So, I guess coming to Glasgow is a bit like therapy.
Well, I guess you could say that.